In my experience, a lot of the process of interviews for jobs is about hiring for fit. And broadly, what that is supposed to mean is that making sure the people that you are thinking about hiring are going to fit into your culture. But all too often, what ends up happening is rather than determining whether or not this person is going to be able to slot somewhere into your culture, what a lot of interviewers do is they end up looking for people who are just like them. And often that's not a very effective strategy, because often the reality is that you may not actually fit very well with someone who's just like you. If you're kind of shaped like this, and you hire another person with the same shape as you, those shapes may not fit together. And because what you're mistakenly doing is looking for someone who answers questions in a way similar to the way you answer questions, you may end up hiring someone who actually doesn't fit very well at all. If you are a micromanager, hiring someone to work for you who is also a micromanager may cause a lot of additional friction. What you really want is to hire people who mesh together into a cohesive whole. Even if we imagine that these edges are less extreme and they fit together more cohesively, even that can cause a problem. If we have these sort of square-shaped programmers and they fit together and they tile pretty well, and we're able to hire very similar programmers and they fit together into a cohesive whole, and we have another department, let's say design, who are of different shape, but also tiled together fairly well, those two departments could be hiring for fit. They could be hiring people that are similar to other members of the department. But what happens when these two departments bump into each other? We end up with a point of friction. So even in a situation where we figured out how to hire for fit within a department, we need to look at the point where the departments meet. Essentially, we need someone who acts like an emulsifier all along this border and allows the two departments to interact more smoothly. Sometimes this is a role that's filled by production, but it doesn't have to be. You can look in your hiring process for artists who are able to talk programmer, who are able to interact effectively with programmers. You can hire programmers who also can talk design and interact with the designers. You can hire these people to act as emulsifiers to allow your team to fit together more cohesively into a whole, as opposed to simply ending up with several different departments that don't mesh together effectively. I do think that when you are hiring, when you are doing the hiring process, that a lot of the process of hiring, a lot of the in-person, face-to-face part of the hiring process is about ensuring that they are going to fit into your culture, ensuring that you're going to be able to work with these people. Someone who has the best resume in the world, but simply cannot interact effectively with the other members of your team might be a very effective team member on a different team, but they're not going to work very well on yours. So that's why the process of hiring includes an interview process. Some companies ask a lot of very technical questions in the interview process, but quite often, when you scratch the surface of those questions, when you figure out what that process is actually trying to do, it's often not about the answers you give. It's about the way you react to the question. It's about the way you engage in the problem-solving method. So what they're really testing for is, are you going to fit into the culture of the company as a whole? It's a natural instinct for us to want to hire people who are like ourselves. And to some degree, when we are hiring for fit, that's what we're doing. But it's worth remembering that we don't really want someone exactly like ourselves. What we want is someone that's going to slot in to our structure, who's going to be complementary to ourselves, who's going to work effectively with the way that we work, who's going to cover our weaknesses, who's going to fill out this tapestry of a team that we are constructing. One way to do that is to make sure that everyone on the team is exactly the same, and everyone is a hexagon, and therefore tiles seamlessly across the entire tapestry of the team. But that's very difficult to do, especially in an industry like video game development, where you have a lot of different skill sets, which requires a lot of different personalities to interact together. As a result, what you are often going to want to do, what you're often going to be forced to do, is to build a team out of people who have a lot of different shapes. So now the hiring process becomes about finding people that slot into these oddly shaped holes that you have left over in your structure as you build up this quilt of people, all of whom have slightly different shapes, slightly different ways of working, slightly different ways of interacting. So a fit-based hiring process becomes more complicated because you need to involve more people. You need to look at the ways they're going to interact with a lot of different people, with a lot of different skill sets, from a lot of different departments. I do believe in interviewing for fit, in interacting with the people that you're looking to hire in ways that allow you to judge how they're going to slot into your team. But don't look to hire people identical to yourself, because those people probably won't fit into your team as well as you might think. Instead, think of your team like a quilt built out of differently shaped pieces of fabric, and look for people who are going to help you build out that quilt. Look for people that will fill in the holes that you have in your team. For me, one of the big things about video game development is that you have a lot of different personalities working together, because you have designers and artists and audio people and programmers all working on a creative endeavor together. You can't homogenize your employees to as great a degree as you see in some other industries. As a result, hiring for fit, while I do think it's still important, can be a lot more difficult. A special thanks to my members. They provide the resources that this channel needs to keep running. If you're interested in becoming a member, there's a link to that down in the description. We also have a Patreon if you're more interested in supporting the channel in that way. Both patrons and channel members get access to our Discord, which is a great way to interact with this community to a deeper level. I will see you again soon. Thank you.